So I'm Peter Himmelstein, and I'm a board member of the A+D Museum. And then it actually says in parentheses, insert something personal here. So I've lived in Los Angeles for 6 years, about 6.5. And I lived in New York for many years before that. And I had my own office in New York many years ago, Peter Himmelstein, architect. And I've worked for a variety of people. I've worked for DSR and David Rockwell and Roman and Williams in New York. I moved to Los Angeles to work for Gensler, and which was a big change of pace. And I worked there for 6 years, and that ended in at the sort of early days of the pandemic in May. And I've returned to having my own office, which is the California office with a partner, Jeff Solar. How about you guys? Can you introduce yourself?
Yeah, I'm Anush. I'm originally from Armenia. I moved to LA 3 years ago. And after moving, I started school in SCI-Arc Edge program. We met with Shanar there. We were classmates. And after graduation of SCI-Arc, now I'm a fellow, graduate fellow in SCI-Arc. And I have a project about LA. It's very exciting. And this project, the Iceberg project, is about LA as well. And it was like, now LA is my main focus of my research and my project. Yeah. Before moving to US, I was working in Moscow, in London, and in Yerevan in Armenia as an architect. So, yeah.
How about you, Shanar?
So I'm Shanar, as you know. I'm originally from Iran. I'm Persian. So I moved to LA at the end of the August 2019, a day before the school starts. I could reach US.
Yeah.
So I just came I came for living to US, but I planned to start this program as a starting point to refresh myself after 10 years out of school, graduate school in Iran. So I started this program, Design of Cities Studio, and I met Anush there. So originally we're from a same region, Middle Eastern, and coincidentally we're the same age. We're 35, a little bit plus, 36. So we had the same memories of childhood, something. So we start to be connected more.
Yeah.
And back in Iran, I was a partner with two of my friends. We had a medium scale 10 to 15 people architecture office named Transformative Architecture Office. So I was partially working as a practicing architecture. And I was a teacher, I was an educator at Tehran University of Art for 3 years before coming. So I was balancing my life between teaching and practicing.
Yeah.
And our projects a little bit was going into more urban and large scale architecture. So when I was applying, I wanted to do something larger, something more than doing architecture for especially I didn't want it to continue doing architecture as something that you do for elites and doing luxury houses something. I wanted to be involved in more environmental and urban challenges. So I think that was the good choice for both of us in SCI-Arc, and it gave us the confidence. And this was the project that we participated in A+D Museum Awards.
Yeah.
Was our thesis project, the summer semester, the last project that we did. And Tom Main, Isangi, the partner of Morphosis, they were our teachers, instructors, and with the team of the Design of Cities program at SCI-Arc. And after that, we saw that the A+D, we were so surprised that they did this category. And we thought that it fits our project so well.
Yeah.
So before pandemic, we physically came to like we hang out in A+D, whatever
Really?
occasion. Yeah, we came so many times. We had drinks there, but like we hoped it was real for real now, but because it's just a couple of minutes walk from SciArc.
Yeah, even you remember
Yeah.
last year the diploma project exhibition SciArc, so age program. We were
Yeah.
there.
So
Like what made you select this project for the awards, but in many ways it was sort of selected itself, right? I mean, all of your energy went into this, you know, for your thesis at SciArc, and it was a kind of happy coincidence that you would put in all this time and energy, and then there was this awards program that kind of gave you this opportunity to potentially reach a wider audience, and so that's, yeah. So tell me about that, like when you came across this awards category and you saw it and you thought, wow, our project's perfect for it. Did you do additional work for it at that time? Is this pretty much a direct translation of your thesis? Was there anything else you did consider to
Yeah. So we did a little bit more additional work. So we made a video for a project, and it shows more widely what we did. And also the presentation type during the SciArc study and our final presentation was a little bit different than this one. So we needed to compress and show more information with less pages, so to have more accurate. And also we, I think we thought more about the equity issues and more about the scale because of the awards category. Yeah, but generally the project was very much fit with this category. So we didn't do something very new or from the zero.
just to add to Anush, what we did after graduation, we had a really good feedback in the final review.
Yeah.
There were some people. There was someone from the city of LA, Deborah Wink.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, she was there. The guy from the Gensler.
Yeah, so
Someone, what was the name?
Yeah, some of, well,
yeah,
famous, yeah,
some people,
urban,
yeah. So we had like so good comments that they pushed us. They said that you have to push further this project, even maybe because it was about the main focus was about revitalizing the ecosystem of the LA River.
Yeah.
How we can push it forward, even if it's a proposal, urban prototype, like just to present this idea to the city of LA. So they pushed us to think about pushing forward our project. And we understand that for that, we need a more general presentation. That was when we did the video that we sent to A+D Museum. We did it like 2 months after graduation.
I see.
We start to write the narrative more like some in a way that more general people, not in an architecture school, they will understand the project more connected to the urban context, not just.
I think the video is very effective, you know, and even as a you know, as nominally a professional architect, you know, it was a nice leisurely way for me to, you know, enter the project. And, you know, it was like the 8 or 9 minute package that I could sit back and watch. And I watched it a couple times. I watched it 3 times. And it's, you know, so I thought I was actually, I mean, you know, as someone who kind of dates my professional life to a sort of very early digital age or almost pre-digital age. I mean, when many offices were not working with computers. You know, I'm actually very impressed with just like the production qualities, and you know, the way you have a soundtrack and you can hear birds chirping and you have credits and it's the drone shot that opens it. I thought all that was really nice and really makes it very accessible, because there's a lot of information in it. You know,
Yeah, exactly. That was the point.
yeah, it's a dense project, and I was actually kind of intimidated. I was going to write Kiana and Layla and tell her that tell them I wasn't sure I was up to it, because I thought maybe you guys are too smart for me, but I was really impressed by it. And you know, there's a couple questions here that they have. You know, one is, what was your first project that you felt represented you as an architect and designer, and or what brought, and the third one is what brought you to the field. And I think maybe we can combine those briefly, because another thing that I'm really interested in, and I think I'm just because I'm just interested in people and their stories, and you know, from my perspective, coming from Boston, Massachusetts, you know, you guys have these really exotic resumes, you know, and you know that you had this office in Tehran, and that you worked in Moscow, and from Armenia, and so when you're a young person growing up in Armenia, or a young person growing up in Tehran, and I know there's a kind of crazy disproportionate number of architects in Tehran. Like it's like it,
Yeah.
you know, it's like, I think Argentina is like that too. There's like relative to the
It's
population.
growing really fast.
Yeah, it's
Only in the last 10 years, like they're becoming so international. They're going into like really big competitions. So they're becoming well known. Like they're just expressing themselves outside the bubble of their, you know.
What attracted you guys to design and architecture, and I guess urban design, you know, from, I mean, you're both very young. I mean, from an early age, like why, you know, why did you gravitate to this world?
You started.
Yeah, you
So the first thing I should say, I should say that it was 2008. I did my thesis presentation for undergrad.
Yeah.
And that day, I got the confidence that day that I'm a good presenter. You know, like there was my teachers there that they were like some of them plus 70 years old, like old-fashioned architecture. Like in Tehran, a lot of teachers, universities, they have been educated in Beaux-Arts. So like they go to Europe. It was like a trendy thing for them. So our school was kind of like more, kind of try to be more avant-garde, kind of SciArc-ish, my undergrad school there. So it was like opposite the teachers, like we were forcing as young generation. So I remember my project was a little bit different for them, but I presented in a way that the teacher said, jury said that, oh, you really narrate in a way that you want, you bring someone from one point to the other point that you want, and that's powerful. So it gave me a little bit confidence to just continue what I was good at. And I did my master's, and then I started working in the large scale corporate, like something like Gensler there. And I didn't like it at all because it was like boring job, and I didn't know what was it, what was like this, what was my part in the design part of this, you know. I didn't know what I was doing. So after like even 6-7 years, I had this offer from one of my friends, a couple architect and urban planner, that, do you want to join us? You know, like he knew that I was suffering from what I was doing. Yeah. And I had my mind somewhere else. So he was like a 20 years teacher at Tehran University of Art. He was a little bit avant-garde. He has a background. He went to AA to study and come back to Tehran. So he was like more futuristic. Yeah. So I joined them in 2015. The best part of my background was those 4 years before coming to SciArc. So we started architecture projects, but because of the economic situation and political situation in Iran, like the number of the private clients went lower and lower, and we started more urban projects because there are a lot of urban issues in Tehran. It's one of the most populated cities in the world, more congested cities, air quality is so bad now. So like there are a lot of urban issues, and architects play a really good role now in the urban issues. They're like becoming a lot of city members are becoming urban designers, and they're trying to go inside the government to do something. So that was my point, that I think that I wanted to continue and come back to SciArc to do this. And now I want to continue that. I hope the situation will let me to push that forward. Yeah. Okay. Sorry, a little bit too long.
Totally good. Anush, how did you gravitate to architecture and design? I like that Shanar had that sort of epiphany that like I'm good at presenting. I'm in that moment of confidence where she felt she could move forward. What about yourself?
Yeah, so my first profession is musician. I am violinist. I used to play violin more than 10 years. And in Armenia, we have one word. We say that architecture is a music of the stones, of stones.
Music of what?
Architecture is a music of stones.
Yeah, yeah.
Because Armenia is very stony and our architecture is made by stone. Mm-hmm. And during my childhood, it was a war with our neighbors, yeah, and neighbor countries, and we didn't have electricity, we didn't have gas and water, anything. So all night I was sitting and thinking how to make a new type of cities, neighborhoods, and houses to sustainable. That time I didn't know that that's board. I didn't know that it's sustainable.
Can I stop you for a second?
Yeah.
So did I hear you correctly? So you did not have electricity, you did not have gas when you were a kid?
Yes.
But you were dreaming of cities.
Yeah, I was dreaming.
And you had a violin. Yeah.
Yeah. After playing violin, I was dreaming about cities and how to make our country better.
I see.
So when I grew up, I met with one very famous architect in Armenia. After my concert, he invited me to his office. Yeah. And I understand that architecture is my love in my life. So I was doing it from my childhood, and I didn't know what I'm doing. So I found it. And I decided to go to the architectural school. And after graduation, I moved to Moscow. One very big company invited me for work. And I used to live in Moscow 5 years. I was one of the architects of Domodedovo International Airport. And I was working in that huge office like Shanar. But after 5 years, I decided to go back to Armenia and start making my dreams come true. Yeah. And yeah, I had an office with my friends as well. First, we worked in the English company, UK, and after we decided to start our practice, and after that I moved to US. It was accidentally a little bit. And what I wanted to say about this project, Iceberg project, the first day in US when I drove from airport to my new home, yeah, we drove next to Piggyback Yard. And the first impression in LA for me, it's Piggyback Yard. I was shocked. I saw it in the night time, and I was like, "What is this? This huge machine?" And after that, in SciArc, every night I was driving from SciArc to my home next to this Piggyback Yard. And in the night last semester, when Tom and Eve offered us three different places, sites in LA. I was shocked that one of them is Piggyback Yard. So I don't know, my life and architecture are so connected. Everything from my childhood is about architecture and music. And I can't say that only one thing impressed me or I decided to become an architect because of one thing. So it's all my life.
So I'm going to ask you the question that you've probably been asked many times before, but why the iceberg? Tell me what's your, why is it the iceberg?
Yeah.
I just want to know. Why isn't it
Yeah.
Green Mountain or something? Or why isn't it Piggyback Yard? Or either one can answer. Is it because it's the tip of the iceberg? I mean, I just wasn't quite sure, but I was wondering about your thinking.
So our project in this studio, in Tom Main's studio, we are starting with exercises, combinatory urbanism exercises. And we used to name our sketches by names. And this one we decided to call Iceberg because it's even more, it has more secrets and more more thoughts inside it than outside. So if we can see it three-dimensionally, first sketch, it didn't have any high rises, but it has so much underground space.
Yeah, we
digged and digged.
So much.
Yeah. So we hide it in that digged area, so many things. And after, of course, it changed and developed, but the iceberg name
Stuck.
yeah.
Yeah, like because it was so much limitations to do this project. As you know, this site is one of the most challenging sites in LA. It's the largest privately owned land in LA.
Yeah.
But it's covered almost with all the rail trails. And there has been a lot of proposals for this site. Even the city of LA wanted to do Olympic site for this, but the owner, Union Pacific Company's railroad, they didn't accept because it's connected to Long Beach. All the cargo are coming from international to, they're coming to the port of Long Beach. They're traveling from this side and distributing to nationally. So it's a geopolitical kind of site. So the idea was to build on top of it.
Yeah.
But there's a system hidden, as Anush said, in the because it has a regenerative off-grid. We're saying that it's an off-grid system, and we calculated so many things. So everything is inside it, and we dig. It's like a meltdown inside the heart of the project. So, and the system, it's a system that it's a closed loop for itself.
It's like hidden machine. Yeah.
So that was the starting point, like we called it Iceberg, and we continued and they said, oh, this one, just and we
Iceberg.
continued to do it, and it was provocative as well, you know.
Yeah, no, it is provocative. It's good.
Yeah.
I actually do have one quick question about the rail yards themselves, just because I know you guys did a little, I know you guys did actually a very detailed analysis of the open space and the space that's occupied by the yards. And it's funny, and it's probably just, I don't think anybody decided that I should meet you guys because of this, but when I worked for Diller Scofidio Renfro in New York, I worked on the Hudson Yards project, and the Hudson Yards project did exactly what you're proposing, which is to build a platform over an active rail yard. And that for me was actually the most challenging, the most interesting part of the project when I worked on it, and had any number of challenges because the grid had to be irregular. There was incredible coordination issues in terms of when the trains were coming in and out. But my point is, did you guys look at whether it was feasible to sort of modify the yards in any way to build like a somewhat less ambitious project, but because I just don't know like the intensity of the use of the yards. I mean, I feel like anytime I see them, it doesn't look like anything's going on. You know, it looks like this sort of ghost town. But I must be wrong about that. Like maybe it's very active at night, and like you said, it seems to be this vital supply line for a lot of the supply traffic. So I was just curious if there's a kind of more modest project where you might just propose to shift or modify the railway lines to kind of capture some of the real estate there.
First of all, the Hudson Yards. So we started to see the Hudson Yards as a case study.
Yeah.
But actually, we had a huge conversation with Isong about it, that he wanted us to understand because the funding of the Hudson Yard, it's something that I don't know if you know it. It's kind of not publicly fair. I mean, it's a little bit challenging. He wanted us to understand that part of it, the funding part, and that was not something that we wanted to do. So we understand the whole process of how they did it, and they use the air rights. So we started the same idea of how we're going to do that. And of course, when we had jury from the city, they said that it's about the cost of this platform as well. And I remember the name. It was Roger Sherman from Gensler as well.
Yeah, I know Roger as well.
Yeah, Roger was like telling us to do, oh, you guys, if you push this project and like a big corporates come and put a feasibility study on top of it,
yeah,
maybe we can do something, you know. So that was one of the points that like push us forward. But the idea, like you saying that like modest project. So we had different groups in the studio. There are 2 other projects on top of this site as well. Yeah. So we were the 3rd project on top of this site. So there were like some, the other project was a little bit like not this dense, and there was like kind of different from this. The idea was different, but what we wanted to push was the idea to do the max out density to test this off-grid neighborhood. That's what we can do. Of course, we could do a modest project that like we can do this we had hydroponic farms. That's the starting point of them. Like if you in the video you see that it's growing in a long-term idea. It could start to revitalize the river, then go to do the hydroponic farms. The project could stop there, you know. Long urban project usually sometimes stops. So we were thinking how to put the phases that if it stops, it still works for the city.
Yeah. Yeah.
So if like we can evolve it to a point that like you put the last phase, which is we call it eco village, that all the towers will come up and pop up. Like you have built the system couple of years. The idea is that a phasing system, you have built up all the infrastructure to have this neighborhood that works as a neighborhood that it's like in a closed loop and off-grid.
Yeah,
Right.
but the other thing the other thing that I would like to add, we had a case study of this site, Piggyback Yard, and as we understand, so many years, like 20 years, different companies, different architects trying to make this site living, and all projects were about give back to the city this land, and they wanted to buy from the Southern Pacific this land without rails. But as we understand, it's not realistic. So this company will not go. So what to do with them? And we understand that we can't just remove all rails and make Central Park or the same project, but on the empty land. Yeah. So for that, we decided to do the most realistic one and the most maybe crazy one.
So I just wanted to ask you kind of about the past and about the future. And the past is, you know, when I wonder if you if you looked at, you know, it's hard for me as someone, you know, it's somewhat of my vintage. It's hard for me, like when I look at like a visionary project, and I was someone who was raised on like looking at like Corbusier's, you know, Vie Radius, or looking at Frank Lloyd Wright's Broadacre City, and looking at these visionary projects. And there's many others too, like there's Ludwig Hilbersheimer's, you know, projects that tend to be vast and tend to have, you know, large repetitive residential areas and lots of green spaces. And I just wondered what your critical attitude was toward that, and if this project was in some ways a critique of those historical projects.
I think one of the things about what Anush said, the exercise that we started with, combinatory urbanism, which is what Tom Main has started and was teaching us, was how the complexity of the cities and how many like different forces are coming in. Mm-hmm. And maybe it's kind of not opposite, but a little bit critiquing on how the kind of like that, those kind of modernist urbanism kind of failed. And we are facing cities with more urban challenges. I mean, like the forces are so much. It's not, for example, this side, it's not only, it has so many physical limitations. On the other side, there are political, there are social. One of the things was that this is on the east side of the Los Angeles River, and like it's kind of like Los Angeles with LA River. It's caught it in two parts. I mean, when you come on the west side, especially now downtown, after Art District a little bit builds up, it's something else. So when you go to the other side, it's the other word, like the price of the real estate, everything. So there was like not even, there was so many forces coming into this exercise of combinatory urbanism, which means that we have so many primitives inside it that you can't design with that modest kind of modernist kind of urbanism thinking, and it needs more complexity to solve this complex problems. So of course this project, it needs a huge team to be solved. I mean, technically a lot of like, the premise was equity, ecology, and economy. So like if you first ecology, we're focusing on ecology. If you do this, you will bring equity, and equity for in the meaning of access for the public, access to green and blue space, access to housing, access to everything that a neighborhood could have. And the east side of the LA River has this lack of access, that part exactly. So it was so complex that we can say that maybe that's why we try to push forward. I mean, push the boundaries of like, maybe we could think really simpler, but the limitations, the forces are like so much, the complexity, and it needs really something more than that to solve, to answer maybe not all, but like some of the problems that especially it came after the pandemic hit. Yeah. And I should not say something that it's trendy, but talking about micro proximity neighborhoods, that was something else that affected us as well. I mean, everybody was in their neighborhoods, everybody was moving locally. And
yeah, I think that's interesting.
Yeah, that was one of the things that like, and that was one of the things that I think contextually, time-wise, affected how we were designing and thinking.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this time, as we understand, the city like Los Angeles, and not only Los Angeles, but the big cities and diverse cities, they need not just architectural solutions, but also they need some experimental prototypes for these cities, and this project is the prototype. So we also, well, we were looking for other 5-6 sites in the around of the LA River, and this one is more complex than the others, but the idea was to use this prototype in the other sites and make it works in the other sites as well. But yeah, so as the Shanar said, also because of pandemic, that it's east side of Los Angeles, Boiler Heights and that neighborhoods, we, as we know, they don't have enough parks, they don't have enough entertainment, and kids are growing up not like West Side kids. So this second downtown, which will connect East and West sides, will give chance to that people and that children to have more complex and more interesting life, and also more social life.
Yeah. Well, I thought it was, I mean, I actually do think that what really differentiates it from a lot of the historical sort of visionary plans is some of the stuff you said. And it, I mean, it has a kind of awareness of sustainability and a kind of, you know, and it's sort of starting premise as a self-sustaining community. And what's the expression you use, Shanar?
Off-grid. Regenerative system with off-grid, huh?
Right, but you said it was sort of like a micro environment. Or,
oh, micro proximity.
Yeah, the
micro proximity neighborhood.
Which I haven't heard because I don't.
I steal it from someone. John Rosant, you know him?
No.
John Rosant. It's someone like working in, I don't know, city of LA, something. Yeah. We had an interview. So in my research for graduate fellow research, for SciArc, I have a platform with 3 other graduate students that we interview some architect, policymaker, something. So we had an interview with him after it, and it started in the start of pandemic, and he used this word micro proximity.
Yeah.
And I thought that, oh, it's a really we were thinking about it with Anush, but we couldn't come up with this word that, I mean, so like designers is always like that. You're working and you're hearing something and it like builds up something. So we started to think about how this, like, because we had analyzed the site that you could put a 400 meter by 400 meter square, which is a walkable module. So if you have a site that fits inside that, you can handle it by just walking and like biking, and no need to have so much like cars inside. Yeah. So we were thinking about that, and this micro proximity idea, like we started to push the project towards that as well.
And it's ideal for these numbers.
Yeah. Well, you know, I mean, you know, and I don't want to give short shrift to sort of all the thought that's gone into it. I mean, there's all the metrics, all the sort of quantitative aspects of it. And it's also, you know, like you said, you're replacing the ego-driven system for an echo-driven system. And I don't want to give short shrift to all that. I mean, I think there's actually like an ideology that's a work in progress that's embedded in all this. And I think that's a really complicated, you know, conversation that probably is really not suitable for the half-hour format. And but I did find it really interesting. But I said that I wanted to ask you about the past, and I wanted to ask you about the future as well, because, and what I mean by that is, I have to say that there was like a science fiction quality to the project, to me. And I was curious if you guys like science fiction, and if there was any science fiction that might have influenced this, either books or movies. Maybe not.
I think Anush is more, I should maybe to answer to this is how we worked as a team
Okay.
together. I think maybe you will say something else after I say,
Yeah.
you don't know what I'm saying. So
Okay.
when we met each other and this year, like we understand that we had before this, the first semester, we had a project together as well. And when you had a little bit experience, because it was a postgraduate program and we had like experience like practicing architecture. So you know what is your weakness, what is your power. So we understand that how we can complete it together as a team.
Okay.
So she has this more crazy designer, artistic spirit,
Okay.
and I have this more rational kind of mind. So I think the combination of these two and she has, I think, like more this science fiction. I don't know if you ever thought about any.
About science fiction.
Yeah, no, like any movie or something, like I don't know, like Blade
Not
Runner.
movie, but I
Of
saw
course,
so many
of course,
dreams.
we were growing up watching Blade Runner. You know, like it kind of like affects us in so many ways.
Yeah.
I think like it always has affected us so many ways. It doesn't matter where you come from. So of course, like, and Los Angeles for both of us, I think it's kind of the platform for kind of the future of cities. I mean,
Yeah.
when I moved, I have visited Los Angeles as a tourist before, and I always thought, because I had architect friends here, designer friends there, and they were saying, "Oh, you should come," and the futuristic aspect of Los Angeles. But for me, because I have traveled a little bit more, I thought that, oh my God, it's just like a typical
They wish.
American city with single family housing. It's not that futuristic. I mean, there, even if you come to Tehran, is more urban context is more complex now. So why they're saying that? But I think it's a really ready land, and it has so much potentials
Yeah.
and resources to push it forward for even science fictional ideas.
What do you think, Anush?
Yes, I absolutely uh, agree with you, Shanar, that we together, when we are working, we are becoming one complex one. So we are pushing to each other. And yeah, Los Angeles, for me, it's an iceberg as well. It's a big iceberg. And when no, I'm not going to build all this iceberg on the Los Angeles, but first impression is the other one. But when you live here, you understand that this city is really science fiction. I feel myself in the movie. So it's like invisible science fiction movie here, and you can do everything and anything that you want to do. And this project, honestly, no, I was not thinking about any movie or any book, but I saw so many dreams about that when we were working, and I was walking around that iceberg and thinking about that. And the science fiction for me for this project is that we are going to push it, and maybe one day we can build it and it will be science fiction for us. So.
I'm just curious, do you guys at 36 still see LA as like the land of the future?
Me, yes. I can see it because even there are so many other cities in the world, in China, in South America, that maybe they are more futuristic, and there are so many so much opportunities to do more science fiction, but LA for me is one of the most one because
I think what I meant to say, I just want to adjust what I'm saying, is that when I lived in New York for many years, like when I feel like I reached the end of New York, it's because I felt like it seemed like a closed city.
yeah.
And one of my attractions to coming to LA was that I felt like it was an open city. Like
yeah.
it was like land of possibility.
Yes.
A lot of reality has set in, and my ideas have been tempered a lot over the years. But I do still feel that way. That's kind of more what I meant to ask. That
yeah, and you can just drive through the city, and every 5-10 minutes it's changing and changing and changing. And I think during the time it will not stop. So that's changeable city.
And I think that I cannot say is the land of future city, like comparing to a lot of, for example, Asian cities, or now there are a lot of proposals that are doing that are in I mean it has started in Middle East. They're doing Neom City. It's a city of it's going to be the most futuristic city in the world. It's going to be everything with drones and everything. I don't think that we can say that Los Angeles is the most futuristic city. It's not. Actually, it's so old-fashioned now. But the thing is that I think the people who live here, I think the number of the artists, designers that they want to push the boundaries of to go through and like move forward fast. The thinkers here, there are a lot of like really exotic ones here in Los Angeles. They're living here. So I don't know what will happen to LA, but I think maybe that's why people say that it's kind of, because it's the place for, I mean, like there are a lot of extraordinary artists, not even architects. I'm not talking about architects, but there are a lot of artists. I've even seen A+D Museum have invited a lot of them, working with them. So I think maybe that's why it could be, it has this potential. If other things, the other forces of city, I don't know, it's political, it's social, a lot of other like economic, a lot of things will come together. The residents of LA are the futuristic ones.
Yes, and I think you saved my question. I think that was a good response. That's a fair response too. Yeah.
What is futuristic? It's only technologies? I think no. It's not only about technology. So
no, if it's I like the idea that it's more the sensibility, that it's more the point of view. Because clearly it's a dump. I mean, it's like, I mean, like I still find it, I mean, I still almost laugh out loud sometimes, like when I drive around, and I can't believe like how crappy like certain intersections are, and certain, you know, all the, you know, a lot of the strip malls and so forth. Look, in a lot of these projects, this, you know, it's really just the beginning. So you have a lot of opportunities to continue to kind of enrich it, and it's very interesting to me that you're getting this level of attention, and that. And I think you're right to rely upon the sort of people of Los Angeles, and that there is definitely a hunger for, I mean, I think if there isn't a hunger for sort of visionary projects or ambitious projects, I mean, you know, and I don't think there really is a meaningful future. But I think if people continue to invest in this like aspirational idea, you know, I think it could still transform into kind of the, you know, the place that it's always seemed to promise to be, you know, and it's still a beautiful place in many ways. Well, it was really a pleasure to meet you guys. I really appreciate all the time, and congratulations on winning. And
thank you.
And I don't know, Kiana, are you on?
Yeah, I'm on. I'm just listening.
Oh, okay. All right. So we were going to wrap up, and I think that's it for me today. But but I really enjoyed it, and I really
No, thank you so much.
Thank you.
It was really
pleasure,
nice
yeah.
to meet you, and we
Yeah.
wish it was in real life. We're
Yeah.
coming and
Yeah.
hanging in
yeah.
Seoul, I think.
Yeah.
If we
Okay.
hang in all of us in LA,
Yeah.
we'll meet it in real life.
Okay.
So thank you again, A+D Museum, for giving this opportunity. I think it was a really smart idea, as I've never seen that much in, especially like museums. Like I know A+D Museum is like a little bit different, but like putting a category which connects to this large scale ideas, it's usually more smaller than architecture, even sculpture, artistic. So it was really a surprise for us, and it was, I think, like really interesting for us to have this opportunity to face this at this moment. So, and it gives us a lot of like, I don't know, in this situation, it was really nice. So thank you so much.
Well, it helps us too. I mean, it helps us evolve as an institution, and we're kind of, we're very aspirational too, and we don't really know the shape it's going to take over time. So, and this does influence us.